This is the Let's Roll Podcast with your host, Double R. What up, everybody? It's your host, the Rolls the Most, Double R, and this is the Let's Roll Podcast. And today's episode, I'm going to talk about what I've been up to, where I've been, what's been going on, and I want to get into this little bit of discussion on what's going on with the world as far as the political landscape, all the panic in the world about who's going to run, how they're going to run, who you're voting for, that kind of stuff. I don't like to get political too often, but I think it needs to be talked about. So we're going to do that and much more right after this. All right, guys, I know it's been a while since I've been on. It's been a minute. A lot of things have happened, have gone through. As you know, earlier this year, COVID hit our home finally after almost 3 years since COVID came a-calling. And it finally hit our house. And as I've said in other episodes, you know, what we went through, we had it for about a week. But we also noticed that once we had got it and kind of got through it, and then I had another little medical scare, not scare, but a medical problem, that still don't know what it was, but that kind of came up right after COVID. After I got over COVID, then I had this other problem. But we've noticed, at least me and my friend, we noticed that since we've gotten over COVID, just haven't been the same after that. Like, nothing major, you know, like, we're not having, like, significant problems or anything like that. But we feel like we don't have the one motivation, the energy anymore. Like, I'll get up in the morning, and depending on what I'm doing, now, I mean, I'll either get up and I'll, you know, go to the bathroom, maybe take a bath, get dressed, and then I'll end up having breakfast or a late lunch, depending on when I wake up. And I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if it's because of the so-called long COVID that some people develop. But man, after I eat, you know, maybe about an hour or so after I eat, man, I just want to go back to bed. I also don't feel like I sleep very well. Now, I do use a BiPAP or CPAP machine, and so, you know, that does help me sleep a lot better than I used to. But here lately, it seems like I have a really hard time getting to bed or getting to sleep, not to bed. I'm no problem going to bed. I mean, I'll go lay down periodically throughout the day. And like I said, you know, there's sometimes that, you know, after I eat, about an hour later, I'm like, I feel like, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. So I'll go to sleep for a while. And then I'll wake up. And then I'll do the same thing again. I'll wake up. By the time I wake up, it's time to eat our dinner or whatever you want to call it. And sorry if I make noise. I'll eat, and then I'll go. You know, sometimes I'll stay up a little bit and I'll watch TV or play video games or whatever. But it seems like I'm pretty much want to go right back to bed again or sleep. And like I was saying, I have sleep apnea, and I do sleep with a machine. And I even had not too long ago, about a month or so ago, I had a follow up or a checkup with that doctor, and he's like, "Hey, according to the readings on your machine, everything looks good. You're doing good. Your sleep apnea is almost non-existent when you're on your machine, so you're doing fine." And I said, "Okay, that's cool, you know, but I just don't feel like I have energy." Then I went and got my annual done, physical annual, and a lot of those results came back, and now it's telling me I need to go see a doctor for diabetes. Just a brief history. Last year, when I got my physical, I had just started, like, really kind of changing things in my life as far as some eating habits and things that I was doing. And the main thing was I was drinking Dr. Pepper like it was water. And I don't know what, it hit me one day. I just kind of went, you know, I need to get off this Dr. Pepper. This is all I'm drinking, and I need to not drink it. I mean, the ultimate goal would be to not drink it at all, but I'm not going to do that. I still want my Dr. Pepper from time to time, but I wanted to totally get off the dependency of this is all I drink. And so I went pretty much almost like a cold turkey almost, and started drinking a lot more water, and I was doing really good. I lost a good amount of weight. I was on track to reach my goal weight that I wanted, and then by the time the holidays came, and I kind of fell off of what I was doing as far as eating, and I was also intermittent fasting, and I still kind of do that, sort of. I'm trying to get back on track like I was before. But when I went to go see my doctor last year, my number, my AC, or is it AC1 number, diabetes number, whatever. I don't know exactly what it's called, but anyway, that number uh, last year when I saw my doctor was five something, which is very good, like really good number. I mean, because the year before that I was like 14. Well, this year I went in and my number is around seven, a little over seven, and so she's like, "Hey, you need to get back on that other diabetes medicine I was had you on that you stopped using when you were doing all your fasting and lifestyle change." And because I told her, I said, this is like making me gives me a little bit of the shakes and also gives me headaches. And that was only because I felt like she had me on two different diabetes medicine, and I wasn't taking in all the Dr. Pepper and all the stuff that I was doing before, last year. That's why my number got so down so low, but I was still taking the medication, and I kept noticing that I would get really, shaky and headaches at a certain point. And so I told her, I said, look, I'm not taking this other medicine, this one medicine that you want me to take. I'm not taking that. I'll take the other one, but I'm not taking this one. And so it kind of worked out, and I was doing okay. Well, now she's wanting me to get back on that medicine. I'm not gonna do it until I go see this other doctor, and this other doctor says, because she's just my primary care doctor that's telling me to get on these medicines. He's sending me to a doctor that specializes in diabetes. So I'll wait till I get to talk to her. But anyway, me and my friend both noticed that we just don't have the energy, and we're just, and part of it, we're kind of unmotivated. And I know I fell off this podcast, and I kept telling myself, I need to get up. I need to record some episodes. I need to get back in it because I want to continue doing the podcast, but it's getting to the point where it's really hard for me to get up and say, okay, what am I going to talk about? Because I don't want it to get away from the premise of why I started the podcast, because I wanted this podcast to be more about, not necessarily just about me, but what everyday living with a disability, different topics that I can, give you my point of view from someone that's disabled, and talk to other people that are disabled, and but also have interviews like with the solar guy, talk to him about, solar and how we got involved, and y'all have listened to that, and I do appreciate it, and I'm really happy that the amount of plays that the episode Singing Both Sides got, because I think that's a really good episode that people need to listen to. I mean, it's just basically telling you, hey, you need to look at both sides of a situation and not be blinded to the other side, and not be willing to hear the other side. You know, take into account both sides before you make an opinion about something. And so I really appreciate the response that episode got. I really wish y'all would, go to the website, which is www.theletsrollpodcast.com, and shoot me an email or something. Give me some feedback. I really like to hear from the people that do listen to my podcast. Maybe give me some suggestions and stuff. Speaking of both sides, let's get into what's going on in the world right now. Some of the discussions that's going on, especially in the political realm. And, I'll discuss how I look at things and the way I see it. Do that right after this. So I don't like to get into political. Um, now people that know me would say differently, but I will talk to somebody about their political views or political opinion, and I'll give them mine and blah, blah, blah. But what I don't like to do is I don't like to get into discussion that then turns into being personal, like a personal attack. Like when I discuss with somebody politics and they have a different view than me, I don't attack them personally. I don't put them down. I don't say stupid things like you're crazy or you're uneducated or whatever. I don't, at least I try my best not to come off as I'm attacking them. If I do, and it does come off that way, it's only coming off that way because I'm trying to understand why you see or believe or understand what you understand and where do you get the information. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you say something that you believe is true does not make it true. And I don't, I'll be the first to tell you, hey, I'm not a political scholar. I don't follow politics, like, like a religion or anything like that. I watch or listen to different things that give me different sides, trying to see both sides of it. And what I find harder and harder for me to be able to do is to see the conservative side. And I mean the far right conservative side. I have a hard time trying to understand where they're coming from and why they think the things that they think. And I'm not saying that I learn that or I didn't learn. I lean on the left side or the far left side. I don't necessarily lean all the way over to the left either. If I had to categorize myself, I am definitely more of an independent, middle of the road, undecided, if you want to call me that. But I'm not really undecided because I am decided on this year, this political environment right now. And I am definitely not leaning to the right. Let's leave it at that. I'm not leaning to the right on anything, on anyone or anything. I think the right has too many problems. They've let that party get out of control, and they haven't. They're following. The majority of them are following along to get along, if you want to say it like that. On the left side, I don't see. I mean, I can't really think of anything that I disagree with on the left side right now. Like, maybe if somebody broke it down to me and really broke it down to me with facts and truth, not made up stuff. Maybe there might be one or two things that I don't agree with. But are we really going to agree 100% with everything on both sides? No, that's not what we should do. And we should not put all of our faith and belief in one person or one party because or it goes back to my episode seeing both sides. You have to see both sides and understand both sides on any topic or any situation and see if you are right in what you believe in or you're wrong in what you believe in or there's a middle ground than what you believe in. I touch on political stuff in my episodes here and there, and I was really touching on it on the climate back when COVID was going on because I didn't understand why people the vaccines and masks and shutting down and blah blah. And my biggest complaint nowadays is that we are still harping on what happened 3 years ago as a hindsight mentality now. Well, that was terrible for the country. We shouldn't have shut down. Well, looking back at it now, knowing all the or having all the information we have now, then maybe that was the bad decision. Maybe that was not a good decision to do, was to shut down the country. But going through it, I don't think you can really say that with certainty to say that was a bad decision. Anything that it's kind of like watching a football game and they do a play and it loses a game, and then you look back on the game and go, well, if we wouldn't have gone for that play, we wouldn't have lost. Well, yeah, but when you're in the moment, you're making a decision, and you're trying to weigh all the outcomes and scenarios. So yeah, you can look back at the game and go, well, we probably shouldn't have made that play. We would have won if we didn't do that play. But at the time, you saw something different. So that's the same thing in life, in general. You make decisions every day that have a consequence. And then you look back on it after you make that decision and you go, man, if I would have done it this way, I wouldn't have had this outcome. But for whatever reason, you made a choice at that moment that you thought was the best thing for you. So I always say this. I always say this. That I think society just has a real problem with dealing with consequences of their decisions or actions. At the time, they think it's no big deal, and they, say, "Oh well, if I do this, it's no big deal." And then they may do it, and then they regret everything that they did because the consequences that they suffered. So when it comes to politics and stuff, I want to have a discussion to where we can sit down, have a discussion, have a back and forth without making it personal and without making it like a schoolyard, two bullies or two people in the schoolyard going back and forth with each other, trying to one up each other, trying to, you know what I'm saying? And my biggest one of my biggest frustration right now is like, I'll bring up one particular thing. Okay, so Trump gets charged or found guilty on, I think it's like 34 counts of basically business records, um, because of a hush money payments with his relationship with Daniels, the porn star. And in the way the right side brings it, it's like, well, this should never been brought. This case should never been brought. And the DA before them, before this new DA, he wasn't going to bring the charges, but this DA campaigned on going after Trump and blah blah blah. So I started thinking about the way they were talking about it and what they were saying, and I said myself, or I thought to myself, I said, well, okay, wait a minute. I look at it like this: if a police officer pulls somebody over for speeding, at that moment in time, he has a choice to ticket, give you a warning, give you a verbal warning. He has variable options. Nothing is saying that he has to write you a ticket. There's a law that says that, but it doesn't command him to go, that he has to follow the law. Okay. So if one DA decides, looks at the case and just says, you know what, I'm just not interested, you know, I'm just not going to bring this case. And a new DA comes along and says he disagrees with the DA that's in office and says, wait a minute, you got a case and you should bring it because the law says for you to bring it. Or he feels that it's a strong case that they can win, so they should bring it. And so when he runs for DA, he campaigns on, I'm going to go after, blah, 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 and Trump and da, 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 whatever. So he campaigns on that. What are you supposed to campaign on? Like, if you're campaigning to for whatever, you're going to tell people what you're going to do. And just because he said he's going after Trump, oh, that was terrible. He was going to go after a president. He should never have campaigned on that. Give me a break. He campaigned on the promise of going after people that are breaking the law. Okay, he campaigned on it and he won. And then he went over and he went over the case, looked at it and I am not speaking like I know all the ins and outs. I'm definitely not someone that knows all the ins and outs. But I just take it on face value that this is what he did. This is what he looked over. And so he decided he had a case, blah, blah, blah. And then they say, well, nobody knows why the case was brought and what he was charged with. Yes, y'all do. Y'all just say that because y'all don't want to admit anything. And so that goes back to my problem is that, okay, if you're going to talk shit and try to, why are you never taking responsibility of your candidate's faults in what he's done? Why don't they do that? I know why. They don't want the man to look bad. They want him to win. And it's their job to go after the other candidate. Now, let's face it, when it comes down to the two candidates for president, they're both old. We all know that. Everybody knows that. One is showing his age a lot more physically and somewhat mentally. And then the other one is not necessarily showing it physically necessarily, but he's definitely showing it mentally. He is all over the place. And so people go, well, they had a debate, and I'm sorry, there are no such things as presidential debates. It's a presidential argument. It's not a debate. They're not debating anything. They're not, one candidate will stick to what the question was, and the other candidate is not, because he's not there to debate the issue. He's there to try to win over voters. Well, personally, what it does for me is if you can't talk about the issues and you can't talk about what your policy is for those issues, then you're not winning me over. You're not even giving me a chance to say, yeah, I'll go with you. And if you think I'm going with you because you make the other one look bad and make him, or he makes himself look bad or whatever, problem with this situation right now, my opinion, is that the president that's in office right now has done more in 3 years than the one that was in the office before that's running again. And he has a record to show that, hey, they both have records basically to show. Just going to say it. Trump doesn't have a good record. He has brainwashed, in my opinion, or convinced a lower class citizens in this country that just are going on whatever he says, even if it's not true, even if it's partially true, but not totally true. And I just can't vote I'll vote for Biden. Now, I'm not one of these people that's going to say, well, I'm just not going to vote. I don't like either one of them, so I'm not going to vote. No, I think that is a cop out when you say that. If you can't bring yourself to vote for, I'm not going to say the right person, okay? But if you can't bring yourself to vote in order to keep a bunch of bad things from happening, you know what I'm saying when I say that, then you should never vote again. I mean, when you don't vote, you don't have a right to say nothing, period. Because if you vote, then you have the right to speak up and say, okay. And I don't care who you vote for. I'm not telling you to vote for one or the other, right? I don't care who you vote for. But I think you still need to vote because it is, I didn't always believe this. When I was younger, I could care less about voting. I could care less about politics. Politics weren't reaching me when I was younger and coming up. I don't think politics really grabbed a hold of me until probably, we'll just say after 9/11. That's when I started kind of paying attention to it a little bit. Like I said, I'm not following it big time, but that's when I started looking at it going, okay, we made a change when we got Obama and we lucky enough to keep him twice. Then when it came up to Hillary and Trump, yes, that's when I didn't practice what I'm preaching now, and I didn't vote. I didn't like either one of the candidates, and I was just like, I'm not. I honestly think the reason I didn't vote, pretty confident on this, it wasn't that I wasn't going to vote. I was going to go vote, but I couldn't get into my polling place to vote because of my disability. Honestly, I think that's the reason I didn't vote that year. But after that, I voted because then I not found out. I knew I could mail in vote ballot, but I found out where I had to do that. Like where I had to apply for that to do that. And don't get me started on mail-in ballots. I think they're okay to do. I think they're a necessary thing to do because there are going to be people like me that either can't get to the polling place or the polling place is not accessible. So those are two reasons why mail-in ballots should be allowed and not looked down upon as a bad thing, because they're not. There's only one party that wants to make them bad, and that one party is because they know the majority of the people that vote mail-in ballots, I guess, is that they're going to vote for the other party, which is not necessarily true. Because in my lifetime of voting, I have voted for Democrats. For Republicans. 1, 2, 3. I voted for Republicans 3 times, and so early on I voted Republican, and then I didn't like the way I try not to say that I'm one side or the other, but I am voting one way right now. Now, it doesn't mean that a Republican can't come along and say all the right things that will, make sense depending on who they're running against, and I can say, okay, well, I'll go vote for them. But right now, that's not happening. But again, I'm not saying for you to go and to vote that way. You vote the way you want to. But I do want you to vote. I don't want you to not vote, because not voting is not a good solution. But man, it's just getting crazy out there with all these. And I'm sorry, I am just getting so. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm just getting so sick and tired of hearing. I'm gonna just say it. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about Trump and all these things that are going on with him, and every day it's something new about him. And I'm just so sick and tired. I remember when Biden was voted in as sworn in as president, and I just felt like a big relief at that point. It's like, oh, cool, we're we got somebody in there that knows the job. Is how I looked at it. I'm not saying he was a good I'm not saying he's the best president ever. I'm not saying that, and I wouldn't say that really about anybody. I might say some presidents are better than others, but I'm never going to say, "Oh, this is the best president we ever had. He was great." Blah, blah, blah. No, that's not me. I just know that Biden was a whole lot better than Trump in so many different ways. Not in every way, and not everybody's going to see it that way. So much better than Trump, and it felt like a big weight. And then as his presidency went on, Trump just creeping back into the news, creeping back in the news. And now that he's running now, of course, trying to get every day I got to hear something about Trump. So sick and tired of hearing about Trump. And I know he's never really going to go away. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here. I wanted to do a little, episode here, give you a little update what's going on with me, talk a little politics and what's going on in the world. I got a couple of episodes that I'm planning on doing. One of them is one that I think I mentioned before that I was going to do about going out to eat, and want to talk about a story that happened in the news several months back, and how I found the story. And that's one that's going to come on. No, I'm going to do. It's going to be all about going out to eat and some of the things that I've had to deal with and with disabilities. And then I'm working on a few other ones. I'm not going to say what they are because really and truly I have some ideas, but I'll get them out when I get them out. I do know another one I was going to do, and I kind of touched on it on this one. This episode is, the Trump situation, the case that he got 34 counts. And originally I was going to do this episode called, the title was going to be Now What? But maybe I'll talk about it again, touch on it again and some of the crazy stuff that's going on. But until then, look out for that restaurant episode. It's coming. And then I'm going to work on getting an episode together with some guests. I'm hoping I can arrange it where I can have both of them on at the same time. And we'll see you when we see you the next time. As always, make sure you check us out at www.theletsrollpodcast.com. Send me some feedback. And as always, until next time, see ya.
Hey, this is Paula, and you're listening to the Let's Roll podcast with host Double R. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media. Find links in the description below or at theletsrollpodcast.com.